Um, Hi guys. So I'll get started. Thank you so much for joining. Um, I have been getting some really good feedback from some of my close friends. Of course, they are being very, very polite. I'm sure I have a lot to improve. But hi, Ashfaq. So there are a lot of these people I have not spoken with, like we've not interacted in a long time, but it's great to see all the old school guys, lots of memories flashing back. So Udit, actually, I know him from Calcutta days. Brother, the way we got to meet was brother of my childhood school friend. And then we landed up meeting in Bombay because he moved and we've hung out. And obviously, because of Navneeta, I keep hearing, so hey Udit, we should catch up if you want to chat, if you like, given that you've come here on hi Izaz, I still don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm good, thank you. Hi Ashwak. And so Udit, let's catch up. I've heard some good stuff about what you're doing, and Namita keeps talking about you, so next time you're in US you should come to New York as well. So for the people who've joined in late, this is what I started showing today. So why have I started with this today is because today we are going to talk about the gaming industry, what it means for the industry that I am hoping to kind of create some tools for, and what has been the history and why I think it's very, very important for women, girls, the young girls, because we still are fighting that battle that not too many girls are into gaming, and it's very, very skewed still when you look at the larger numbers towards the boys. So what is it? Yes, with Candy Crush and Angry Birds and all, you have the casual gamers, but the hardcore gamers where there's also money to be made. It's a very lucrative career option. You get to study a lot, you get to learn a lot, you get to understand the academics from a very different perspective. There is potential. So this is where my interest is, and we will focus on that. So that's one. The second piece today that I wanted to talk about, as I said, I have very bad memory, so I have to make a note. I will never remember otherwise. Okay, perfect. So this is as far as what we're going to talk about, what we did yesterday and day before. So yesterday I did try a Twitch 1 hour session where I went through the whole process of recording and showing. Of course, the first 15 minutes is a disaster because I didn't know how to share the desktop. So I landed up repeating the same thing 3 times where I was just my face and the browser was there while I was operating on another software. But finally, I think if you ignore the first 15 minutes, the piece that I started with was that I created this digital avatar. And when I'm thinking about creating my digital avatar, I obviously look back at starting from the childhood days, the most fun, carefree days. So I created our school uniform. So I've just done the sculpting, basic first round sculpting in ZBrush, and I'm going to do it in clothing physics. So I created that and I showed the whole process of how do you use the 3-4 softwares that I use to get a small bit of animation finished with clothing physics, and how if you kind of put this whole pieces together, and you don't need to be a designer. So that is the most amazing part of these softwares, that you don't need to be a designer, you don't need to be an artist, you don't need to be good at drawing to be able to hi Hassan, hi Prakash. Sorry, I think that it's very dark and aapka connection kharab hai, so I think let's connect once the chat is over, because I'm unable to then disconnect once a person has come. So the control is with the other. I don't know how to do that. So we'll talk about that later. So I'll come back to, sorry, what was I talking about? Yes, so I on Twitch channel. So I showed the process of doing that. And if the idea for me is to get to a place where in that 1 hour session, I could interact with a bunch of people and do an improv storytelling where we talk about, let's say we come up with a sequence, we come up with a story, we come up with a character, and it gets done live, and we want to test out as to how long does it take for us to be able to conceptualize and produce the whole life story with animation, motion capture, using all these cool tools, and also do the digital fashion of the character. And in that 1 hour, while this is happening, the clothing is done. Once the content gets done, another 2 hours. So basically in a 24-hour cycle, how do you create the idea, the story, the content, the production of it, all of it, creation of the character, the clothing, and then launch that digital clothing on a marketplace for the digital goods marketplace, or get it into the physical pipeline if there is a demand. So this is mostly the fashion industry, the retail industry. So yesterday I also landed up releasing a work in progress digital fashion piece on my channel of this Kali. Hassan, who's the original creator of Mind Room, the superhero universe. And today we actually released a blog as well. So if you go to blog.DesiPopWorld.com, the superhero, the whole process of how we are collaborating with people, it's from Hassan has written it. So it gives a very good detailed info about the universe and how he's looking to collaborate with other artists. So please go read that and then reach out to Hassan or any of our properties or to me to look at what we could do together. So yesterday we landed up finishing the clothing for what Kali will wear in the 3D universe. And yesterday I was doing the testing in the software where we did the simulation and it worked. So I just released it to show what it can look like. Now imagine what the repercussion on the retail industry will be if there are millions of consumers who have become storytellers. How are they going to attract their attention? Now, one is through the social media that we always look at, and how the brands and marketers are coming to these different platforms and trying to engage with influencers, etc. But where does the gaming industry fit into this whole space? One is that we are starting to see more and more infiltration of brands in the gaming space through the metaverse system. So H&M, for example, just went into the metaverse and they opened their own store. And now they're probably obviously going to integrate that with their physical stores. They will have augmented reality, and it will definitely look like a science fiction becoming reality to the common man in probably 2 years. So where does the gaming industry fit in all of this in the real world? So this is a very, this is what my team has sent, and I was reading it, and the sad part is that there is more problems that is being highlighted because gaming industry is still dealing with a huge problem. And the idea that, yes, we are trying to create more opportunities, equality, equity. You keep seeing this on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn has become pretty much like good morning WhatsApp, Mata Hari type thing, that be positive, be positive. That is happening. I'm seeing more and more that happening on LinkedIn than actual work happening. So maybe we should start looking at even a professional new network where people are more focused on the work and stop motivating each other all the time. Actually just do the fucking work. So that kind of applies to the gaming industry. So the reason why I'm a little kind of very serious today about this is because I was one of the anomalies in my school days where there was hardly any girl around me who was crazy into gaming. Like, yes, we had Atari. I remember playing that Duck Hunt, King Kong. Call of Duty I was not a big fan of. There was this military, I don't know what it was, like some shooting game with some night vision, and I don't remember the name, first person simulation game. So I used to do all of that, and obviously I was one of the kind of only girls around all the boys, and I thought 20 years later that would change. So the proportion has gone up, but not nearly enough. And because of that, combined with the legacy companies creating these barriers, and what are these barriers, and how the decentralization system, the DAO system, the NFT system is going to break that open and create this flood. Like it'll actually be literally like a floodgate, that every second person, like at one point when we were growing up, what you wanted to be, the idea of who your superhero or hero would be, to being like everybody wanted to be actors or actresses, to now everybody wanting to become YouTubers, to becoming gamers and storytellers. That floodgate is going to open, and like a couple of hundred different areas are going to become niche enough for people to start finding employment opportunities there. That's what the people who believed in this whole decentralization, the blockchain, crypto, the open market, the believers of that, that's what we are all hoping that this kind of thing will bring about. So gaming, so I'll just read out a couple of lines from here. This is written by my team who have spoken to a whole bunch of people through LinkedIn, personal interactions. So this represents one particular class of people who feel they are underdogs and they don't get that opportunity to break through because they feel they have that talent. And there are case studies after case studies, including that Sony had released a game. I'll tell you where it was. Sorry, as you can see, I read like 5 times, but I don't remember. So there was a particular game that was, yes, Cyberpunk 2077. For instance, Cyberpunk 2077 game was one of the most awaited games releasing in December 2020, and it was so faulty that Sony had to remove it from its Play Store until June 21. So why would something like this happen when you hear, like, games like Fortnite, and there's so many other great games coming, but there are also that many more games being made in rush, because most of these big companies are extremely possessive about their work process. It has gone to the level of it actually hindering the whole industry's growth. What do I mean by that? That because of the whole IP copyright and the fear of it getting, for all legitimate reasons, or most of these companies want everything owned by them, all the assets owned by them. They want all the like, if you go to any big company with a story idea, they will not even talk to you if you don't tell them, okay, you can have all my IP. Only then they will even entertain the idea. Now the access to that company can only happen through all the layers of gatekeepers and the middlemen and the agencies and all of that. So the exhaustion for an outsider to even think about doing something like this, there are so many walls that already have been, like, with diamonds and everything has been shined, that, oh, you want to come in, you better have, like, iron teeth, and then you can enter. So with this kind of fear that is already there in this underdog society, I think the decentralized system, the NFT system, the NFT marketplaces, and this digital asset creation, which I feel is the biggest roadblock to the explosion of the storytelling industry. So how do we get over that? That is where crypto assets and the difference between crypto asset and cryptocurrency needs to get more clear. And the second would be the NFT, the use of every digital asset as an NFT is what we are going to start seeing. So each of my avatars, so for example, of these characters, from a value of gaming assets and NFT, everybody is now going to start looking at making assets and figuring out what is their value. It's pretty much like saying that, 200 years ago, or initially when just electricity just started coming in, everybody started figuring out how can they use electricity and into their work life and create other businesses. And electricity just becomes a tool that, okay, I will have light inside and then I can use that to run things, to make other stuff. So I feel NFT pretty much is going to become that NFT is just something because it makes things transparent. Blockchain makes things transparent, and crypto makes things transparent. The fluctuation pricing and all that needs to settle down. So that I'm not going to comment on, but everything else that needs to be organized in such a manner that whatever each one of us makes, and we want to, let's say I decide that I have made these. Now, their names are GANA. By now, like most of the people who are the aspirational, this kind of represents one type of urban wannabe, South Bombay, like, club going, American, MTV, Friends influence, the kind of aspirational belt I'm talking about. So this technically just represents a very small belt, because this was created by this was designed, and like the idea of this came from these 23-year-olds who were interning with me at that time, and a couple of them now work with me. And they obviously, this group of people represents the aspirations of these characters, because what are the chances that 3 of them are from one production house and 1 is from the other? So now when you look at these 4 characters have influenced almost 2 generations now. The styling, what they look like, how they behave. You look at the top social media influencers of India, Hindi speaking. When I'm talking about, I'm being again very like segmented right now. So because I understand Hindi and English, so based on what I see on my wall, I am focusing on more North Indian than South Indian. The same logic can apply with characters and everything for South India or for the microcultures of different countries. So now these 4 characters, today, a big fan of one of these characters is also a 3D modeler. Now, this character, everybody knows what the name of this character is, what that IP belongs to. You create a chibi style character, or you get your kid or your friends, you all dress up like them during Halloween. That Halloween industry, the IP rights for that, when they make the clothes, I think I've talked about this, all of these assets that I'm making in the digital space, where will it get used? When we talk about storytelling industry, people just assume that storytelling industry means making movies, making serials. We go to Hulu and HBO, or in India, you have this like, Z and Sony and all of these, and you sit in front of the TV and you watch. Gaming industry, people who are not into gaming just think that it's a waste of time, and people are just sitting on the couch for 6 hours and just shouting at each other and playing game. The amount of storytelling that is there in the game, the amount of work that goes into creating that game, the thought process behind it, it's basically, and this is one small thing I will definitely like to talk to like my generation who are parents, that this ideology that they have that gaming is stupid, gaming is useless, wo log time waste karte hain. Yes, there is a lot of truth to it, but there is a lot of things that you are just being very, you are doing the ostrich act ki apna sir sand mein dal do, I don't really care. That's what is happening. But it has been proven over and over again that the gaming environments is very immersive, and in today's world with so much of distraction and multitasking, gaming actually allows you focus in that one place. And gaming also creates communities. So for example, the next generation with the metaverse, the definition of what countries, how like the ideology of how countries function is going to change, because people like me are not really creating one metaverse and telling everybody that, okay, come follow in my, like I'm not creating another Facebook, or like people like me are not interested in creating another Facebook. What we are interested in doing is creating these tools through which everyone can create their own world. So we are basically like the whole tech industry is moving towards drag and drop storytelling ecosystem, where each one of us is a god. Like a lot of times we've said that a director or a movie writer is a god because he's playing god, he's trying to create something. Yeah, that's true. And even if that's true, there's nothing wrong with it, because in fantasy, in storytelling as children, we are pretty much playing god all the time. Like we tell stories, we create some stuff. Now we have those tools to do that. So in the gaming industry, I'm going to read out a bunch of things because it's easier for me to read it out than try to explain it, because then I'll end up talking for 10 minutes where it's written in 3 sentences. So game developers and artists in artists in like really giant companies are notorious for pushing almost impossible deadlines, forcing mediocre, unfinished, glitchy games to be released to market, with a lot of them skipping the narratives of extensive campaigns and storytelling. This I am going to say from experience is 100% true, that the deadlines and what you can achieve, like this attitude, even like when we were growing up, that a lot of my friends who actually studied and came out with flying colors, they also would kind of cram up just before the exams and be able to do that. At an individual level, that's okay. But at this production level, when you're trying to do A++ projects. Now, my experience has pretty much been, again, with the Indian entertainment industry, with Bollywood. There, the couple of projects that I have worked with, marketing of a product, where on one hand, the ideology is content is king, so let's focus on the content and let's talk about marketing later. But on the other hand, gaming is not marketing anymore. That is the difference that a lot of these big IP owners don't understand. That marketing is part of the storytelling now. So from the first day that you think that, okay, I am going to make a superhero universe, or I am going to create this, like let's say some heist universe or cop universe or whatever I'm going to do, I will make the whole movie, I will do all of this, and then I will think about marketing, and that will have gaming in it. That was 25 years ago. Times have changed. 25 years is probably 2 generations now. Because gaming, the amount of effort, the amount of time, everything that goes into making that game, that is more expensive and time consuming than making the movie itself. This disbalance internationally is understood a little more, yet you see, instances like this, like big companies making faulty decisions. We even saw a big animation movie, that Hedgehog movie, Jim Carrey's one, where they had to redo the whole VFX because, again, it was deadline. And people in these big companies, especially the gamers who are just the game programmers and all, they like burn out very quickly, because then they pull off this 16, 18-hour days because there are these cramped deadlines. And then when games like this get pulled, we just see one line. But imagine the young people who like have sat there for days and days and coded and created the screen and cleaned up the character and done the green screen and all of that. They all go into depression. They all like take a big hit. But on the headlines, it's like, okay, it has been recalled. Yes, you can argue that they were just doing jobs, but this ideology of jobs is also going to change. Yesterday, I read, and Ariana Huffington on LinkedIn was talking about that this is not the big resignation. This is actually a big re-evaluation. So in the gaming industry and the storytelling industry, it almost looks like, two big trucks are heading towards collision. And once it collides, what will come out of it, like if I had to use the Big Bang analogy, what will come out of it? We will see that in the next 10 to 12 years. So it's exciting and scary at the same time. So one of the big things is that these big giants, these big gaming companies, because of these tools that are available now in the open source market, is ready, and it's pretty much ripe for somebody to come from somewhere with a very new ideology and a very new algorithm to create a marketplace for assets where the management of it is through the DAO system. Okay. Another thing, now I'm going to read the next thing. Over time, these big companies, along with mobile games, have pushed the agenda of gambling in the form of loot boxes, buyable in-game currencies, and modifications, which really are now being the main source of their income rather than the game price itself. So it's pretty much anything that you create nowadays, like an airport system, right? Like you are taking your flight, but the economy that gets supported in the airport, that is where you want, or even the movie theaters. That's a fantastic example, that going to watch the movie, that whole experience of the popcorn and the price and the VVIP seats, that is where the revenue happens. Now use the same analogy for whatever my team has written, like these buying in game currencies, freemium models, etc. So it's pretty much like hooking you in and then keeping you there. What you do to keep, what the gaming companies do to keep the gamers in there spending money, is that pure game? Is that regulated? Should that be regulated? What will be the role of that in the metaverse driven games and phygital experiences, where you have digital goods in the gaming environment, but at a click of a button through the gaming environment, you can trade these products, make money, or you take them out and you exchange them with real goods. So it's starting to definitely feel like I'm talking, like I'm literally living and feeling science fiction now. So how do small companies and new companies get around this ecosystem? A lot more complicated. I don't have the answer, but this is a question that we'll end up talking, especially individual gamers, individual game developers, solopreneurs, these real-time, storytelling teams. We are all quite interested in figuring out what to do next, so that this decentralized philosophy gets embedded into other cultures as well. Okay. Okay. Now, Okay, this is dangerous. The real danger of companies abusing the technologies such as open world platforms is that they are now inclined to find ways to hook people into spending money on these boxes. Expansions and tempting customizations while releasing games for full price with full awareness of its glitches, and in many cases having critical errors rendering them unplayable. So again, the economics of it. Where does it come that, okay, it's a storytelling thing, we are making an effort, we are going to spend, we are going to release it, and then we know there are glitches. Now, in the pharma industry, you hear about medicines and all 10 years from now, 20 years from now, then you hear these one-off cases because it's all about the money power game. The same thing, should that be applied to the gaming industry as well? Should that be applied that where without knowing very well that it is going to create glitches, they say, okay, 10% people will have problems. Is 10% okay? What are the standards? How do we make this kind of knowledge accessible and available to people who just want to enter and know, okay, I want to enter the gaming industry? It's important to know these things from a very practical usage point of view. And now with the fashion industry colliding with the gaming industry, lot more common people are going to start passing through the gaming industry. They will be peripherally involved in the gaming industry more and more. So I think it's more important for people who have never been into the gaming industry, but let's say they are in, and I'm going to talk about digital fashion and digital fashion more and more, because that's where I see this kind of exploding first before it enters the other markets. So a lot of common people who have small boutiques, who are working with the artisan community, who already do, like, you know, small mom and pop shops across the country. Like you have kiranas, right? You have these, like there are a lot of these jokes that I see about tailoring aunties and bhabijis and their measurements and all of that. What if all of those people start showing interest in this? Obviously, they are not interested in gaming, but how do they understand what the value of their clothes or what they can make will be used in the gaming industry? So it's very, very important for complete novices to at least understand the marketplace of and the dynamics of the marketplace of the gaming industry, so that they can then figure out that their clothing industry, whatever they want to do, whatever digital clothes they make. Let's say if they right now they copy big stars and big movies, very soon they will have to know what are the big characters, the avatars that are being played, because those avatars are going to become celebrities. So my avatar might look, 2 feet tall in a game, but I could also have 10 avatars with 10 different personalities in 10 different metaverses having 10 different shops. So that means we are talking the way McDonald's and Subway talks about having 1,500 stores across the world. What will be the digital retail economy look like, where the next generation retailers will just say, okay, our main focus is going to be in the digital retail space, and we are environmentally conscious, so we want to stop this, $5, $10 t-shirt kind of market. People will live in the digital world. Anyway, people are spending more and more time there. When you want something for the physical world, it would be customized. So are we going to see that switch? If that happens, is that good or bad? By the time we figure that out, I think there will be 10 other Facebook kind of companies gone and, ruined 100 other things. So that's, I feel, very important. And that is why, while I have played a lot of games in my 20s, and after I moved to US, I stopped because I realized that trying to do something on your own in another country and this idea of being alone, you can get very sucked in. So I had to really make an effort not to get into gaming. But now with this, I have to. So I've started setting it up, and I'm kind of getting myself acclimatized, and I'm going to play games, but I'm so bad at it that I'm very conscious. I have to first practice before I can at least do live. So that will happen on Twitch. Now, next would be, next point is mobile games have been dimmed down to clickbait formulae without really serving the need for innovative storytelling in major cases. This trend certainly continues around the world, with some European governments now looking at regulations to curtail games which focus on gambling narratives in form of loot boxes as compared to story or gameplay. EA sports games such as FIFA are notorious for recycling past assets and releasing a rehashed version of older sport games, even though there are state-of-art engines such as Unreal and Unity disregarding any technological advances and spending more on marketing and bundling the same product with something new and spectacular. So this is, on one hand, there is so much of new technology out there in the world that we are even trying to grasp what to do with it. And there are companies after companies who have been market leaders are actively trying to rehash the old things, because the new ones means that a lot of the old past stuff will have to be thrown away or put in museums. So I think it's time to start discussing digital museums, so that the common people understand. Like, for example, nowadays when we buy food, packaged food and all, there is this carbs and fat and trans fat and gluten free and things like that. I think digital goods and digital apps and digital products that people are now going to be using more and more, there needs to be a more simplified version, not more simplified, there is no, apart from that terms and conditions, there needs to be like a simple dummies version of what that digital product contains, so that we can start figuring out some sort of ethical boundaries of what you can do in the digital world and pass it off as new. What kind of regulations, because if we are all living in this digital world, then it is not a choice anymore. We have to also look at, having a more government by the people for the people kind of a thing in the metaverse digital space, which is going to be really, really integrated with the gaming environment. For example, in China, I remember having a conversation with a friend who was saying that in China, the coupon system, the gaming system, the gamification word is so ingrained that even when they have to, like right now, we've started doing that. Like if I have to go somewhere and I go down and I have 4 apps on my phone, right? I have the NYC Yellow Cab, I have Uber, I have Lyft, I have one more. And then now through the COVID, there is the scooter that you have. So you have all of this, and then started getting expensive. So you see 3, 4 of them. Now, right now it's painful because I go to 4 of them, etc. But in China, that itself has become an app. So it's become a meta app. And everything is to coupon, and everything is about what you're getting free and how much cheaper you're getting. So the human is the product. If things are free, if everything around you is free, given by these big companies who then post profits after profits, that means you are the product. So in the gaming industry, when you gear to go to the metaverse to either open a shop, or you want to become a gamer and be part of these competing teams, or you think that you are a legacy retailer, let's say you have a big sari shop and you think that digital saris is going to be a big thing, digital wardrobe is going to be a big thing, what are you going to transition? It's very, very important to understand the market leaders in the gaming industry, the kind of games that are available in the market, the multiplayer games versus the mobile games, the casual games. What does each category mean? Are there any dummy books that should be written for things like this, so that, like the way financial planning has become very important, that for being an independent person at a very young age, whether doesn't matter what gender, what caste, whatever, everybody should know about financial freedom, how you want to manage your money. In the similar manner, in the next 30 years, if you're trying to do any kind of business, having digital knowledge is very important. And if you are selling anything physical, whether you sell furniture, you sell food, you sell clothes, there is a digital version of that. What are you going to do in the gaming industry? Do you want to be in that business is the choice. You can be in that business is obvious. You want to be is a choice that you have to make, in the similar manner that when you open a company, you decide whether you want to just operate in your own city or you want to have branches. The same thing applies in the digital commerce, digital assets marketplace in the gaming industry. Next point. Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm not being able to wave to all of you. And I feel very awkward because, in real life, when somebody waves, you wave back. But here, it just feels very rude that you're not acknowledging people. Okay, then. Okay. This is the point where I have hope. So I'm going to read this point as well. Gaming being a high barrier to industry requires extensive setup and money for producing games, and there is hope for indie studios to rise and contribute to beautiful storytelling using modern technologies as compared to giant firms at this point. So while big giant companies with hundreds of millions of dollars at disposal continue to focus on just capital profits, there is hope that indie studios and open collaborative efforts will produce games where technological advances make innovative storytelling easier and possible using 3D technologies and word building. So जो मैं पिछले like 40 minutes से what I have been ranting about, my team has already written it in a very nicely professional manner and sent it to you. So I have read it out, because if I try to explain this, I would talk for another 10 minutes. Now, this is where all the process that I talk about, the softwares that I am using, they are paid software. The paid software's interfaces are easier to understand. Otherwise, the open source model versions of all these softwares are available for you to practice, and you can test it out and then decide what you want to do with it. So I keep talking about the, okay, what we want to now get to is in the future, like where am I headed with all these vlogs that I'm working on? I'm hoping that another month or so we would get to a place where, like the way I launched Kali's clothing yesterday, that every day I'll be able to launch one set of clothes and say that, okay, or every week I'll be able to launch one set of clothes and show the process of how it was made. And people who are in the conventional clothing industry can look at the conventional side of it and then find and integrate their business model with the people who they completely don't agree with. Because that is one of the biggest reasons why I have been able to work with a lot of people internationally, because business wise I go out of my way to work with people who I don't understand what they are doing at all, because then in the gaming in the gaming marketplace you have a room for everything. Like it's basically your whole life, what you live in, whatever you have learned. How do you take that and create a fantasy version of yourself where all the tools are now available? I was listening to a bunch of podcasts about the gaming industry helping with anxiety and depression, especially in the virtual world. And there are more and more proof case studies that are being done for old age homes, cancer patients, where they are given kind of, and one of the ridiculous ones was yesterday I was again watching Colbert, where cows are being, because they are in such traumatized environment, that now we are spending more money, so getting VR glasses for the cows to see good pastures, so then their body gets relaxed and they produce more milk. So why are we even torturing them so much? Might as well just make less profit and give them a better environment. So that is kind of a stupid use of VR. But more and more people, especially the younger generation, I keep hearing the kids that I work with that how their whole generation is depressed. And I don't want to make fun of it. Everybody has their own thing, but a blanket statement like that, the whole generation is depressed. And of course, some of them are my friends' kids. So my friends' point of view and their point of view are on the opposite ends, because both of them think that, they are the most tortured generation. So I will not get in between parents and kids, but that's the kind of feedback they have. So the next generation is more adapted to creating their virtual avatars. Now, gaming industry and virtual avatars, how do these two connect, and where will the making money part come in? So the companies today who are focusing on making assets and figuring out how to collaborate with people who are not interested in just owning their assets, that is going to be the big winner. The easiest way to do is you make asset, you go to somebody, you said, I've spent 10 hours, my rate is so and so, I have created 50 chairs, here, buy it, finish, full stop. That has been the model, and the legacy companies are hoping to hold on to that. But in the open world gaming environments, the idea is like old school. In earlier times when you would have these marketplaces, everybody would go and there would be a lot of trading that would happen. So in the digital goods environment, think of whatever you have learned, and let's say you are very anxious and you are unhappy in your personal environment, or you are very, very socially conscious about going out or about your looks or whatever, on one hand, these digital avatars and these gaming environments give you the freedom to take all your experiences, create an alter ego of yourself, a fantasy world for yourself, and be your authentic self. You don't have to be somebody else. It's just that all your inhibitions can go away, but whether you use it for being cruel, like what Twitter has become, or should we start looking at creating a society in the digital world where you have to abide by rules? People say that, you are very anonymous on digital, nobody can track you, etc. Yeah, you can't get tracked, but your accounts can be kind of held responsible. But then there is this cancel culture that nowadays anything you say, it's a cancel culture. So how do you create that balance? And that is why in the digital space, through these gaming communities, more and more like-minded people, self-selection based ideologies, they come together. And I just feel that more and more of these fragmented groups are going to get created, where it's not going to be somebody with just 5 million and that person has said something and X number of people are following. That will always continue. But the living of life, interactions, friends, once you have your digital avatar, you will have a whole digital wardrobe. Somebody was talking about that on TikTok, and this age group is between 12 to 16-year-old girls, where they are doing speed fashion now. There's something called speed fashion, where they are making TikTok after TikTok while they go to the wardrobe and what can they put together. Now, obviously, some people will think it's stupid. Some people will think it's a great way of expressing creativity. Whatever the case may be, imagine now, thanks to Amazons and Walmarts and all, the same kids have like 50 clothes where they could have done with 10. In the digital world, they can do so much more with it, express themselves. And in that process, maybe girls who do this, let's say they are interested in the styling industry, fashion industry, clothing industry, understand the physics and chemistry of the clothing through this visual medium in the gaming environment. Because a lot of the second lives are pretty much becoming the next generation's clubs and sororities and clubhouses, which comes with its own perils, but that's where we are looking at. So how do we divide our whole life, physical and digital, and create that balance where the digital life is there to help us live our physical life, and not the other way around, where we escape our physical life and live in digital life. So if the digital life becomes complete expression of your fantasy version, we have seen more and more that there are some kids who've gone through therapy in the digital world, and then when they start kind of interacting again in a more comfortable manner in the physical world, they have said that it has helped them. So it's not like gaming is all bad, but gaming just as a tool to add to the bottom line of these big public companies is what I think we need to stay away from in the next generation metaverse driven gaming environment. So thank you so much. I think, hey, Jay Motwani, Ekta, wow, I am honored. So Ekta Biani and I, we have filmy stories. Like, our filmy stories worth cover page of film magazines. But so she is one of my childhood friends, extremely enterprising entrepreneur. And one of the days, Ekta, Anna, you want to come on live? I'm about to finish in 10 minutes. Aati hai to aap? Do you know how to come live? Okay, she's not coming. So she is the person responsible for me having seen Bombay, because she was getting married. So she got married early, after early, like from my thing, anybody getting married above 30 is very early. But so I remember going to, like, a bunch of friends went to her wedding in Bombay, and that was my first impression of Bombay. And she is like in the fancy part of Bombay, Malabar Hills. So I remember being there and seeing Marine Drive and everything. And uske baad, I think 2 years later, when I had like two or 3 years later, when I wanted to move out of Calcutta, I went to different cities, and I remember Bombay and I remember the experience. So yeah, so that's my friend, and I will definitely drag her to come and join one of the days. So anyway, thank you so much. So as I talked about, so I have covered pretty much gaming today and people from the fashion industry, how they are looking to enter the gaming space, what they should look at, and should they replicate the retail industry and the retail experience of the real world in the metaverse. And for people who have joined in late, I had talked about H&M. If you go and look up, H&M just launched their VR virtual store. And the whole experience of, like, if you wear the VR glasses or even if augmented reality, it replicates the real life experience of walking into a retail store. I am very conflicted about the UI UX of this, that whether in the virtual world also we should have exactly the same experiences, but on the other, shouldn't we be more creative? But as human beings, we are so bound by habit. And I was complaining that if I go to my local grocery store and they have moved my bread aisle to another place, for whatever reason, I get like agitated because now I'm old and I want my things. So this kind of push and pull between how to completely create a fantasy universe with a whole fantasy life, fantasy furniture. Should the characters also look like us? Because digital avatars today, Star Wars has taught us to see characters in different forms. And now with more and more avatars, things like inanimate objects as characters is the big fascination for the next generation. And that is what I have noticed. Any new kid that, like, 25-year-old that I talk about, when they look at all my characters and everything, they say, okay, so what if this character was this? And we actually have DesiPop things. My team is constantly kind of looking. We are going to start getting, so right now we are only doing 2D versions of it just to warm up so that people get an idea of what we are doing. For example, there's this so my team Voxel Fox created BuraBhala series. So they took top 10 Bollywood villains, and if they were colas, what they would be like, and they landed up creating that. And they have given them fan names. So you will not find the real name of that character on that brand at all. It will just be based on the memories and interactions that people have had that you recognize that that character. Now, what will that do in the gaming environment? Now, that character's real clothing. How will the retail industry look at characters like this in the metaverse? And I am constantly talking about the entertainment industry. You can take this analogy and you can apply it to cricketers, other celebrities. You can even apply it to mascots of these big companies. How do they monetize that? So the branding industry and the marketing industry are in for a very rude shock, because the amount of learning that will go in this is unbelievable. Like, it's pretty much every night I go thinking, okay, I have managed to learn 0.01%. Next morning I'm like, oh my God, I think I need to now read something more. So with this level of hyper learning, curation is becoming more and more important in the gaming environment as well. Curation of investors. So even new startup companies now, the next generation is not taking money from any and everybody. At least here they are being very, very cautious, because they have seen what happens when they start diluting their equity. So this whole concept of how you will create your digital asset, whether you are creating a house, a 3D asset, you are getting into clothing physics and doing the whole fashion industry, whether you are replicating the accessories industry, you are creating toys in the digital world, whatever you are doing, the economics of the real world will apply there. But should it be replicated, and should we hang on to the ideas of the underlying equity versus profit margins from the legacy investors? Or should we look at the next DAO smart contract system where anyone who contributes? So for example, I will take Hassan's example of DesiPopWorld, his first character, Kali, original character. He's already collaborated with 2 artists. So he and I, first artist to artist collaboration, where he's become my co-founder. Now, when he launched his first character, Kali, we did get a freelancer to do the 2D artwork. But his attitude was not that, okay, you are getting paid this much, here's your money, you've done the 2D artwork. For him, the guy who did the 2D artwork has somewhat co-created this character. So now we are going to, we are already setting up a DAO system for DesiPopWorld, where from day one, it will be that, okay, he's the original character. The references were made by this, and it will all be in the public ledger system. So when we launch Kali's NFTs, the royalties of that would be public, so that if tomorrow, or let's say 5 years from now, there is an explosion of any of the characters, at least there is some chain of evidence that this person contributed into planting the seed, because the people who plant the seed always get forgotten. So I feel that the decentralized ecosystem for the next gen business people, retailers, creators, manufacturers, they need to start understanding the gaming environment and the gaming industry, because what the gaming industry is actually doing is creating universes inside a digital world. So instead of you just being a spectator in the gaming world, it's important to understand all the different dynamics and the pieces that go together that makes these gaming companies almost like these gambling institutions. So how you want to stay away from that and be part of ecosystems where it's working on the principles of creator economy and the new STEAM that I keep talking about: storytelling, technology, entertainment, art, and merchandise, which is my area. I think that's pretty much it. I have spoken a lot today. Thank you so much. One more time. This was my vlog, 112. So 12th vlog, the 4 characters. And the next is going to be that we are going to be working on these clothings. And then we are going to be working on creating a small game. And when Kali, the superhero, enters this universe, how the cross interaction will happen. That's what the next fun is, that how are these girls going to interact with the superhero, original superhero called Kali from Mindroom. So that's the next piece that we are going to talk about. So thank you so much. Have a good weekend, because tomorrow I have nothing. And by next Tuesday, hopefully we would have doubled down on all the things that you have seen. I would have launched Kali, and the Jammu and Kashmir artist to artist project, we would have launched the Kashmir Ki Kali inspired NFT. And hopefully by Tuesday, I would have also launched one, we would have released Kali 3D, and we will launch one NFT of Kali as well. And the Haryana Hurricane, you can go to OpenSea. There are 62 NFT pieces that are already there. Please give your feedback. If you guys would like to use that character to create more stories, I have the 3D model for this as well. Please reach out to me. If people who are in the manufacturing industry would like to use this and play around from a toy perspective, please let me know. I'm happy to share the assets with you. So on that note, thank you so much, and looking forward to hopefully making more sense soon. And please, anybody who wants to, hey, Suchita joined again. Okay, Suchita, listen to the whole thing and tell me what you think. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.